Intimidation, where we talk about news, we talk about culture, and where we wish Rupert Murdoch a hearty congratulations for marrying his fifth wife at the tender age of 93. I'm your host, Negin Farsad, and either that's an uplifting story about a 93-year-old who fell in love again, or it's a bit of a downer because it's a marriage of convenience. By the way, it's convenience for him because she's a molecular biologist, okay? Who used to be married to a billionaire. So I just don't think she really needs very much. Either way, today we're going to talk about America's inebriant of choice and about Delta's dress code. We'll also talk about surprise Trump's conviction, obviously. And finally, what is pro-natalism and do you have it? Today, I'm joined by this just one of the most interesting panels we have gathered before you. First of all, you've heard him on the show 1 gajillion times. He's one of the originals of the Fake the Nation verse. He is beloved by all of you and by myself. He's a comedian. He's a writer. He's also the funniest guy at the Pentagon because, yeah, he's at the Pentagon, folks. It is the one and only Benari Lee Poulten. Hey, Benari.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I'm going to give my disclaimer now. My opinions are my own and in no way reflect those of the United States military, the U.S. Army, the U.S. government, coalition forces, partners, real or imagined.
Yes, we've heard that disclaimer before.
Just throwing it out there. Just throwing it out there, guys. Keeping it light.
And in response, I want everyone to know that everything I say on this podcast is on behalf of the Belgian army. Yes. So whatever is going on in Belgium militarily, I speak for them. That's what's happening on this episode.
Sneaky way to get Negin in Paris in there early.
Am I a French speaker? Zilla, you don't know this about me, but you will in like 3 minutes because I tell everyone that I once lived in Paris. All right, guys, joining us for the first time on this podcast. And here's the deal. I just had the distinct honor of being able to perform with her a few weeks ago. And it was so fun. And she was so incredible. The audience fucking just couldn't get enough of her. She's, like I said, a comedian, but she's also an educator, and she's 100% New York, which is one of the things I love about her. She is the one and only Zilla Vodnas. Hey, Zilla.
Hi. I'd also like to say that my views do not represent the views of the Pentagon either. Simply the New York City subway.
Okay, so we're each repping something today, or in the case of Benari, not repping anything.
Repping nothing.
Before we get into the show, I just want to remind listeners that you can go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad to get bonus episodes of the show by joining our Patreon. For as little as $4 a month, you get to support the show. You get 2 bonus episodes of the show every month, more and other interesting bonuses as the tiers go up. It is a good time. Go to patreon.com/Negin Farsad. And now let us launch in with topic number 1. So just imagine this. It's Friday night in the year of our Lord 2024, and the average American comes home from a hard day's work and they want to kick back, maybe get a little fucked up. And that used to mean booze. But according to a new study, weed has outpaced alcohol as Americans' inebriant of choice. And here's some real stats. In 2022, 17.7 million people reported using pot every day or nearly every day, compared to 14.7 million using alcohol with the same frequency. So, oh my God, I feel like the ground has shifted beneath our feet. And it's not because we're drunk or high. It's from data. Were you surprised by this news?
I would say that I've always known. Can someone just tell my parents first and foremost? They still think it's the devil's weed. My family definitely a family that believes in we drink to have a good time, not we smoke to have a good time.
Yeah.
That some people are slow to it. What I find, first of all, less fighting at the bar, definitely. More hugging, a little more crying, maybe just. But I find it interesting. It seems to be gummy based. Everyone's into the gummies. Everyone's into the CBD and the edibles. So I feel like that pulled them in. Also, all of us are in a lot of pain, like joint pain.
Emotional pain.
emotional pain, So I feel like that's what speaks to people. I do have to say though, vices, take it easy. Play it by ear. Drinking, smoking, shopping, whatever your vices, donuts, play it by ear. Just take it slow.
I like that's Zilla's after school special language is vices. Take it easy.
I wish we got that rather than like the weird abstinence only. Like if it was, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like all the school programs are like all or nothing. Whereas if someone just really came in and was just like, hey, do it, but chill, man.
But chill. It's like, don't go overboard.
Do it, but chill, Right? Like that would be so much better. That's such a much better method. I'm not surprised either. And I think you're right. The gummification of our inebriation, I think is very helpful. I also think that it helps that I think it helps you sleep. Like, I think I know a lot of people who do it right before, it just really helps them get a good night's sleep. And I think that the other part of it that is probably helpful is that no doctor recommends you get drunk, but a doctor could just be like, hey, you want to take the edge off for this, for your pain, for your anxiety, for whatever it is. A doctor can write you a prescription. And I feel like once people know, oh, a doctor wrote this, oh, it's okay. A doctor said it's okay. This is just part of my daily regimen of all the other fucking pills I have to take. So, I think it's helpful.
That's a good point that Benari, that like when a doctor ends up inserting it into your life, you're sort of like, well, it can't be that bad. I mean, here's the other thing that I found was interesting about this study that came out is that the concentration of THC has increased a shit ton. So I guess the weed that I was birthed on in California, you know what I mean? That like as a young teenager had only 4%
that
THC.
Dank shit.
Right. It was that dank shit. But now it's 15%, which is a huge increase. And so, I mean, and it also kind of speaks to when we're talking about the gummification of weed, and the gummification of all things, you're always like, okay, I'm going to have one ear of this gummy bear and then see how it goes. And then you're like, well, let me just add one of the feet of the, so you're sort of like trying to figure out because it's so much more potent.
Yeah. I think once it kicks in and you're looking at it, you're like, oh no, I've maimed this bear.
Yeah.
Put this bear, I got to put the gummy out of its misery. I can't just leave it like a one-armed,
a decapitated,
headless. Yeah.
Headless. Yeah. Do you guys remember that movie? It was like, I think it was called Boxing Helena or something.
Yeah.
Was that what it was called?
Yep.
And it was a horrible movie that I wish I could forget.
You can't unsee it. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it.
They're like, let's have no arms in art. Let's make a movie about that. How about
I'm positive David Lynch's daughter made that movie. I'm pretty sure David Lynch's daughter.
Yeah. It was definitely Lynchian. Okay, well,
that's where we went with this one.
That's where we went with this one. Boxing Helena, or whatever the fuck.
I will say we would have never gotten to Boxing Helena had we been drinking cocktails.
No. Nope. We'd be talking about the fighter, and I'd be like, not you, not you, not you. Charlie, get off my porch!
Wait, can I also just say, so there's this weird phenomenon that happens sometimes in stand-up, but it's like it happens on some shows, and I don't know, not all shows, maybe you guys have experienced it, but like where you're like, it's like a Friday night and there's just like a gaggle of people that are really stoned. And they're just laughing at always, or like they can't figure out when the punchline is, so they're
having a good time.
They're having a good time. It's oddly, I mean, it's like fine, but it's a little disruptive, even though they're laughing, and that's technically the whole point of our jobs. But like, it's still weird because I'm like, you're not laughing at the fucking punchline. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the timing's off.
Take it easy, right? I actually agree with you because I think like when people smoke weed before a comedy show, they're like a little lost, super vulnerable, right? But then,
Right.
like, people drink before a show, like really, really drink before a show, they're emboldened.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a different vibe. So like I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I prefer the gummy bear, the weed vibe
Yeah.
than lots of alcohol. That being said, I do think the tide will shift again. And then
Mm-hmm.
like you remember when speakeasies, like when fake speakeasies, because it wasn't like alcohol was
Oh, yeah.
illegal.
Yeah.
But like, do you know what I mean? Now it's gonna be like bougie to drink only. And you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
trend is always gonna like flip around and stuff. But
No,
when we go,
totally.
you
No
said
gummies.
no
No
gummies.
gummies.
Oh, gummies are gonna be so uncouth. How dare you with your gummies? Get out of here.
Yeah.
It's
So gauche.
Yeah.
yes, gummy vitamins. They're gonna be like, no,
I
get
only
out.
get my CBD in Twizzler form.
I believe you mean Nerds Rope. But back to your point again, I think it's incredible that the THC is so much higher. But I also feel like the names of the weed should have let us know that, because before it was like Maui Wowie. Now it's like electric, gorilla.
Right.
Labels, and it's like the marketing for weed is what I'm a little put off by. Now the
Yes.
weed is getting more like there's like stoner mommy weed, there's scary Rick and Morty design weed, like, you know, airbrush weed you get at a gas station. I don't want that for weed either. Do you get what I mean? Like, I don't
The
want
gas station is where I get my sex supplement pills. Okay. I can't get my weed there too.
we can't do this. We can't have the gas station become an apothecary. They're
And
right
by
there.
sex supplement pills, he just means a hot dog that has been turning on one of those things for several hours.
It's an aphrodisiac.
All right, folks, let's move on to another little interesting thing in culture. In the last few months, Delta has removed or almost removed a woman for not wearing a bra. So we took a look at a piece that was trying to figure out what Delta's rules are, and found out that the airline does require that the passengers wear shoes, and says they may be removed for being barefoot, and they can also be removed when quote conduct, attire, hygiene, or odor creates an unreasonable risk of offense or annoyance to other passengers. So it's a pretty wide bucket of things that you can get removed from. This leaves a lot of room for judgment. I don't know, Benari, what do you think?
I mean, as someone who does travel a lot, you know, I'm almost Sharia law when it comes to travel rules. I understand, and our freedoms are very important to me. And I will fight and defend them. But in the private entity that is the airline industry, I do think that some standards are important. Like, I'm all in favor of shoes, please. Because at minimum, these monsters who remove their shoes and socks when they get on a plane, these absolute monsters. Because then you're put in that situation. Like, everybody knows you shouldn't do that. I don't want your open feet. We're in an enclosed tin can hurtling through the sky. Okay.
Yeah.
I can't relax with that wafting at me and your bunions and all that shit.
Bunions,
just
yes.
At a minimum, shoes. All in favor.
I just want to say for bunions out there that it's not your fault, and actually bunions on their own don't smell. No, it's really the maintenance of the
I'm saying
fault.
It's like you're seeing and you're smelling and sometimes you're hearing. It's all bad.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that was detailed in the story was a woman who was told by the gate agent, like, you're going to get kicked off with that outfit, basically, like you're not wearing a bra. And I guess, I mean, they didn't like specifically say that. I guess her shirt was just kind of maybe a little see-through. So anyway, she went and sat down, and then someone came and pulled her off and was just like, you can take the flight, but you have to put a shirt on over that shirt. And so she did. This woman is a DJ. So I don't know. Zilla, what do you think?
She's a DJ and a fashion plate. Look the whole thing up. I had to see the shirt in question, and I have to. So what the shirt in question was when you have that very thin white cotton. I've been
Yeah,
guilty
that's what I
of this.
figured. Yes.
In which you want people to see what's underneath, and you can either opt to wear a bra or not wear a bra. But I'm not saying that that was her intention. I did see the picture of her. She took a picture of her like in her seat. You couldn't exactly see because of the angle. But one thing I will say is I did feel like it was unfair. I think there are bigger fish to fry. I'm all with Benari on like rules on the airplane. Like, I think if there should be order and like pretty strict order anywhere, it should be on an airplane. I also think that should go for, airline companies, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But I do think, look, if they were concentrating on here, then like eyes up here at the overhead bin where someone's putting their jacket and a million plush toys. Like let's get to the real issues on the
real issues. Yeah.
the real, like people putting garbage in the, or like there's a million other things. Like when I saw the picture, all I could think was they really took this woman off of the plane. Like I wonder who was it? Was it, because they didn't say that in the story. Was it the person who sat next to her? Was it someone who saw her get on the plane? It just seems very like, I don't know. There was something else to be bothered with. Do I think I'm back with Benari? Feet. I've seen way too many.
Right.
You see those TikToks where someone has a window seat and there's a foot, like an ankle and a foot in the hole of the window? Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like up on the armrest. But the thing is with the shirt, like that to me is like also you just don't enjoy life. Like you're not enjoying.
Right. I think like a properly like an improperly holstered boob doesn't actually affect anyone's
also
journey.
If you're gonna go by that, then it should be like where things hang, like breasts and balls. Like there should be like a limit of like how low, right?
Right.
And it's like if it's like a bar, it shouldn't be about that should be the bar.
Right, just like when you're going on a ride at a amusement park.
This high, it's like it can't hang lower than this.
It can't go below this.
That's right.
Your boobs can't
Otherwise,
hang below
need
this
something.
line. Yeah.
So, Benari, what you're saying is
it's a safety issue because then it's flying around. It's cabin pressure. It might hit someone.
Hit someone in the face.
You can't have them loose like that.
They're gonna have that thing, that thing that has the 3 sizes of spaces. It's gonna have a line, and it's gonna have next to it.
And if you can't fit them in under the seat in front of you, then you need to do something with it.
And you know what? And this is what we want in Trump's America, guys. That's where we stand. It's a podcast. All right, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll fucking talk about that guy. And we are back, and we're ready for topic number 2. So, Trump was found guilty last week on 34 counts in the hush money trial. It happened the day after we taped, so we didn't have a chance to talk about it. So first, I just want to start with your just initial reactions, because we haven't had any from this show, although America has weighed in. Zilla, the former president, was found guilty. What did you think?
I am so tired of talking about this man. It drives me nuts, but we have to, right?
Right.
As a comedian, I have to tell you, it's been quite the drag that like you can't even make jokes about politics that ring as like satire, because there is no such thing as satire.
No.
I mean, we haven't even figured out if there should be a law yet about people being president from jail, because that's a possibility now. And I just think as a comic, it's so unbelievable. It's hard to mock at this point. And then as a teacher, all I can think of is when I was a kid, he's the type of kid that could be president was a compliment at one point in time. And I just keep thinking this man keeps running the term president into the ground. Other people have as well, but I just think it's bananas. Look, felons can't vote, but they can become president. There's so little to laugh about it because it's just so wacky and intense. And do I think he's going to go to jail? No, rich people get richer, poor people go to jail. I'm really worried that this actually gave him cachet in some weird way. I feel like some people found it cool. And that's really heartbreaking for me because I just think that the law is different for rich people. I think more than anything, it's watching a rich person trying to get in the way of a rich person doing something, becoming president again. And it might just happen. And this case did nothing to deter his fan base. So In fact, that he was overwhelmed with donations. His website crashed.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
He raised several, like, I don't know, upwards of 34 million just in that first day. Benari, what happened to you?
I mean, Zilla is exactly correct. Since in the past, 6-8 years, it's been so absurd. We have upped the level of absurdity that you can't. We've circled back. I think we've come back to the starting point and have started a whole new round of absurdity. Here's my take, though. He's a convicted felon now, like a convicted felon. He's a convicted felon, and that cuts through because everyone, his base and our base and all the bases, expected at least one or two of the counts to be thrown out. He was convicted on all 34 counts. And if you think about how difficult it is to get 12 jurors to agree on convicting someone on all 34 counts, that's insane.
It's insane.
That's how
insane.
insanely
It's crazy.
guilty and corrupt you are, is that you were found guilty on all 34 counts. And what I love about this is that, he got a whole bunch of donations from his base. And you know where that money's not going? To any of the GOP campaigns that need it. He is siphoning and sucking all the money out of the GOP like a fucking vampire. And he is sucking them dry, and they are all eating bugs like Renfield, just like, we love this.
Right, because it's not, because he does determine where the money goes if a money, right.
Yeah.
That's right. I
He's
forgot about that.
determining the money, and he's taking like a tithing from all the like down ballot, and they changed the rules for the RNC so that the money goes to him. So all the money's going to his legal defense. It's not going into the campaigns. So guys, just fucking let it happen. This is great.
Okay, so here's a couple things. So first of all, I was doing something that I will announce I was doing something with moveon.org on Thursday, the day of the conviction. And I was down there. I was at the courthouse for several hours, talking to everybody and interviewing them and doing stuff. And it should theoretically come out, and I will let everybody know when this little video comes out. But what's interesting is, and my husband rides by that courthouse every day, like on his bike. And every day he comes back with a report of like, no, there's still like 6 or 7 people there just to support him. There was never an actual crowd of people there to support him. I know he said that on national news, but there was never a crowd of people. On Thursday, there was, again, like when I was there, I want to say there was like nine people. The thing is, like 3 or 4 of those 9 people were holding like Trump flags. So maybe that made them seem more like 13 people, but really they were just 9 people. And there was just there was never like a crowd. So I just want to say that for the record, in case people were confused by whether or not there was a crowd, there was never a crowd. Also, when he was doing his little interview, when the cameras followed him when he was going back to his apartment on Fifth Avenue, he turned around and kind of like waved as if there was a crowd. And on Fifth Avenue, there was no crowd, right? He did that because he knew the cameras weren't catching that angle. And so it was all journalists. And that was my experience at the courthouse. It was just all journalists. So that's one little fun fact that I wanted to mention. And then the other fun fact is about this jury. It was 12 people. They agreed on 34 counts. It is a miracle, and it's amazing. And the jury had 5 of those jury people had master's degrees or law degrees, which I thought was really interesting. 2 of them were immigrants, which I thought was really interesting. The actual verdict was read by a man with like an Irish accent, which I thought was really interesting. It was a cross section of Americans.
One guy got all his news from X and Truth Social.
Wow.
Right.
So
it was a cross section of Americans. So I feel like the idea that like this jury was somehow, and I hate the idea that you can't get a fair trial. I mean, look, politically, I don't know anyone in Manhattan that voted for Donald Trump. You know what I mean? I don't. That's true. And I live in Manhattan, and I just don't know anyone who did that. But But it shouldn't matter, because that's not what the question was. Not should he be president. The question was, did this man, whoever the fuck he is, do this thing with this money, and did he
Did he do
right?
crimes?
Like,
And the answer is yes.
did
He
he
did
do
34 of them.
crimes?
He
And
did
like
34 of them.
Yeah, so I just thought, now let's get to Zilla's question about whether or not this actually helps Trump's cause. Is there a cachet thing? Now, Zilla, you brought this up. Are you concerned? Because also remember, we're in June still, so like we have some time. This could die out. Like we could like not really. We shouldn't let it die out, and that we should always talk about him as a convicted felon. Every time someone mentions him, I think that's probably pretty strong thing to do for the optics. But Zilla, do you feel like the Republicans got some juice out of this?
I don't feel that Republicans necessarily get some juice, but the cult of personality does, especially for those at the highest echelon financially. So, for example, when I think, and I'm not trying to compare these other cases to the Trump thing; it's a separate thing. But I think people's reactions to it and reading about it in the news. When I think of something like when you watch the Robert Durst documentary, right, and how there's people on that jury who are like, he doesn't seem like a bad guy, and maybe if I had too would do the same thing, I'd murder someone. Or like Felicity Huffman with the college admissions scandal, right? You have and I had to actually, like, I really thought about this as a teacher. Like, there are people who have gone to jail for lying about what district they live in so their kids could go to a good school. But when and people would be like, oh, well, you broke the law, so they should go to jail. But when it's a rich person, they're like, well, if I was in that place, I'd do the same thing. Wouldn't you want your daughter to get into the finest schools? And I think the same goes for Trump, where it's like, for some reason, there are people, especially, okay, so this case especially, I wish the Georgia case had gone forward, which was find me all those votes, because I think that's the actual thing that I want him to see, to get him in trouble for. But this is connected still to Stormy Daniels. So a lot of this was sexual in nature. It kind of brought out, we had to go through the whole thing about her describing his penis. We had, like, it was like reliving all this. And that's the thing. Every time they talk about Trump as a sexual being, because I can't imagine it, I gouge my eyes out first. But every time they do, it like humanizes him. Happened here. It's like a lot, like, not a lot of people, but I think there are people who are like, well, what if you had an opportunity and someone's going to ruin it by saying you slept together? Wouldn't you pay them? Like, there's this weird logic that I think people have now that is for people of extreme wealth and, power. And they think, I hear people represent online, or not even here. I read people, because that's the way to say that about online comments. And I've heard people locally in New York talk about how, like, he represents the everyman. And I can't believe it. And I think things like him getting in trouble for crimes lends to that.
Right.
I do agree that it helps him with the people who love him, who are, and this just feeds into that. But it's like Insane Clown Posse. It's like there actually aren't that many, but the ones who love him are really into it. Like, they're like really into it, and they let you fucking know, And so you're like, oh shit, I see you. But he's also like, Firefest. Like, it worked once, but now we know, and you're not gonna. The outlier was actually 2016, because people didn't know there was a gamble, and there was just enough people that were like, yeah, what the fuck, I'll roll the dice. Those people aren't going to roll the dice again. Some of the people aren't even participating in the system anymore, because he's been so successful at convincing them that the whole system is rigged against them, that why bother? They've already moved on to the take arms against the government portion, and they're just waiting for him to give the go-ahead. And he's not in the government now. So, like, their best chance was January 6th. That was the shot. There's a lot of people now who are like, oh shit, we took our shot and a lot of us are going to jail now. I'm not going to do that again. So there is a lot of grumbling, and I think a lot of loud anger, but I think it's the anger of futility. Like, this is, I mean, like, go back, like, how many people, on the Democratic side railed against how unfair the 2000 election was. Did that actually help anyone get elected? No, there was a lot of anger, but complaining about rigged elections and complaining about rigged systems have never actually gotten anyone elected into that system. It's and I think that we, as if you're a Democrat, it rings true to you because you're like, man, they even took our shit. Like, we were disenfranchised for so long, and now they're screaming disenfranchisement, right? We've had unfair. We've dealt with poor people who have gone to jail, unjustly, and now they're screaming that the system is unjust and corrupt. And so there's a lot of co-opting of things that Democrats relate to, and I think a lot of the fear on the Democrat side is like, oh, that's going to play to them, but it actually doesn't, because it never helped Democrats win elections.
And I, as a continuation of your point, and this is like, I feel like we're both in the, like, we're only doing optimism territory here, which I love. But the 2 words for you guys, Lauren Boebert. And the reason I bring her up is because she literally she won her district by like 500 votes, 500 and change votes, like very, very, very slim margin. And then she continued to be ridiculous and loud and like embarrassing and scandal driven. And then she moved to another district, which is a safe Republican seat, because it was clear after that squeaker of an election, because everyone's like, all right, it's too much. And I think there's a little bit of a like, okay, like we get it, but it's just too much. Like, it's, back to Zilla's point, just, what was it? Calm down, or like, relax.
Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Take it easy.
Yeah, what happened is they
so
took
Lauren
too much.
Boebert,
They've taken too much of their hit.
They've taken too much, and like Lauren Boebert couldn't take it easy. She fucking went hard, and now she has to literally go to another district to run again because that district will not have her. So I think it's just I think there's a world in which this conviction functions like that. Zilla, I feel like you were to say something. Yeah.
I hope it does. I wish it had more immediately, right? Like, and
Sure.
it was interesting that you said that you were at an event and you heard about him getting every single count, convicted. And it's like, okay, so I was out getting a haircut, and the hairstylist turned her phone around to me and she said, oh my God. And the craziest part of that was I couldn't tell from her delivery what side of the fence she was on.
Oh, hey, yeah.
I feel like it would have been like a yes with a deep elbow. I would have known, but I think that it hasn't made people be like more. The fact that the Republicans are not at all now being like, maybe we should look for someone else, to me is like wild.
But they're not. They're broken. Like, and partly the whole, like, the successful part of Trumpism is that it is breaking people's brains. Like, it has broken people's brains.
Nikki Haley says she's going to vote for him.
And Republicans have always been survivors. They've been, they've done the thing that's most politically expedient. They don't really care about a philosophy. They sell whatever bill of goods is popular, and they will discard it the moment it becomes unpopular and pivot and until it costs them again and again at the ballot box, they'll keep doing it. And right now they've thrown their lot in with him. The weird thing is, and I don't want to help them out here because it's not helping them at the ballot box. They are losing elections. The election that they won in Congress in 2022 is when you look at it historically, was a disaster for them.
Right. It was supposed to be sweep, and it was.
They should have picked up like 50 to 60 seats historically, and they picked up barely like 8 or 10, and now they're down to something like 3 or 4 seats with because Republicans who are sane are like, this is too much, I'm out, and they're literally just leaving. They are leaving public office. So I think that as much as there is nothing that will happen to Trump that will change the needle on his supporters, it's not having a trickle-down effect for the rest of the Republican candidates. No one's being helped by this in the Republican Party. And the only thing they have to do is they live in fear that he's going to turn his crazy violent people against them. So they have to come out immediately on the record and be like, I was in favor of him. I didn't say anything bad. Please don't come to my house with your shotguns and your fucking flags.
Well, he already threatened that if he goes to jail, it won't be pretty.
Yeah.
Right,
What
right,
is that
right,
even?
right.
And that's the thing that I find so bizarre about the whole thing is that, like, the fact that we still listen to this man, that I have to hear him speak, and like so many people know that he does nothing good for much of anything other than himself. And I think that's what you're talking about, Benari, where he wasn't a team player at all he gives a shit about is selling merch and being famous and staying in power.
And the fact
He's
that
not
and the fact that so many people showed up for those VP auditions to just like lick his butt and like, and I'm like, no one comes out of this situation without either going to prison or being a total social outcast or owing a lot of money. Like, why do you want to be associated with him? So many people he's associated with ended up in prison. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, don't do it. You will end up in prison. And yet there was like a line of people. All right, folks. Let's move on. But this is fascinating. We will continue to talk about it. But I do love that there's a spark of optimism, and I feel like the way that we're thinking about this. So I don't know. Do you share that optimism? I'd love to hear from you. All right, let's move on to topic number 3. So there's a group of Silicon Valley bill and millionaires who are very worried about population decline in Western countries. And their solution is to have a ton of kids. Chief among them is Elon Musk with 11 children. And this movement is called pro-natalism. So at first blush, Benari, what was your reaction to pro-natalism?
You know, as a Jew,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who is often outnumbered in the world anyway. It's usually not good when a select group of people decides they're going to start taking on the population wars because not enough of the right kind of people are being born. Like, it just makes me uncomfortable. It just makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, there's a lot of subtext to that text. Zilla, what was your feeling?
I think that, okay, so when you look up the term pronatalism, it means promotes the reproduction of human life, right? And I think they're misusing the term pronatalism because they're not actually pronatalists. They're ethno-nationalists. And like, if there's a big interview that's on now with like that's been up for a while, that it's this guy who considers himself the like at the forefront of pronatalism, and he's like real quick to be like, hey, I know a lot of people have used this to be like racist. We're not doing that type of thing. We simply want to keep making people that look just like us act like us and are really rich, which whatever, right? But what is that if you were actually a pronatalist, you would support things like WIC. You would try to get IVF subsidized for families who are struggling to conceive. You would try to have something that was systemic and actually help people. But at the end of the day, this is a very like creme de la, they consider themselves the creme de la creme of people. Like you have someone like Elon who brought, pronatalism to the forefront in discussion because Elon has 10 kids because he's still trying to find someone that loves him. You know what I mean? But I think when you hear the article you sent was fascinating, and like when you read what they're saying, it's very quick that you see that they're like faking it because they're not actually pro baby. They're always like, oh, we want more humans on the earth, it's better for the world, it's better for capitalism, and they're trying to colonize Mars and they need people to
go do
be
that.
their
yeah
like it. So it sucks because it takes away things from the conversation. Like right now, you see so many headlines that say that states are taking away free lunch for students. You know what I mean? Like if you really care about babies and kids growing up, you would fund things. But instead,
which is interesting because a lot of them are talk about it, and it feels disingenuous, right? Because I'm not sure, like this is from that guy who considers himself at the forefront of the movement, but like that they believe, a lot of pronatalists believe in direct payments and tax breaks to families, to generous parental leave, to affordable housing and subsidized education, which that makes sense if that's true. I'm not sure, but at the same time, like Elon Musk doesn't believe in subsidies for like regular people. I mean, he's he's like a libertarian.
But where is the investment in it? And this, I mean, you just said it. This is a libertarian view of having babies, which is like the people who can afford to have babies have more babies, and the poor people will starve to death, and then there'll be more stuff for our babies. Like, this isn't about resource sharing. This isn't about quality of life. This isn't even about this isn't even a Battlestar Galactica situation where you need the human race to like procreate to survive. Like, this is literally a bunch of rich assholes who just are afraid that they're going to die and other people are going to take their money. So they need more of their babies to keep their money. Like,
right. Because also the question is like, is population decline actually that bad? I mean, like the situation that we're in right now, like in the United States, we believe in immigration. So to an extent, we believe in, I believe in immigration. Anyway, someone believes in immigration. Okay, whatever. It was a complicated statement, but we have immigrants. In a place like Japan, there's population decline, and they're like, what do? Let's turn to robots to take care of the elderly, right? Because they don't believe in immigration, and they don't believe in integrating immigrants, right? So that's a whole problem that some of these other countries have. We don't really have that in that way. So we're able through immigration to like retain a tax base if the issue is tax base. And also population decline isn't happening in multiple African countries. It's actually going to be the most populous continent by 2050.
But
so you're right. Yeah.
But Western population decline is code for white people. Like they're just scared that like too many like smart, white people are fucking people of other ethnicities and the bloodlines are getting mixed, and it's, they can't just come out and say eugenics. So they say pro-natalism. I mean, this is what we're talking about. It's you can dress it up any way you want, but if they believed in the bullshit that they're spouting, they would be making investments in quality of life in the places in which they live. And they live in multiple places. They have multiple addresses. They could solve any problem where they live with a fraction of the amount of money that they have at their disposal. But they don't. They don't invest in quality of life. They don't invest in care. They don't invest in education. They don't invest in IVF. They don't invest in subsidies for food. Forget even SNAP or EBT. They could be creating rural urban farms. They could be developing, farmland in cities right now, which happens all over. But they don't do any of that.
Right. Yeah. So it's a lot of empty posturing. I want to close by saying that I find this like particular movement to be weird and questionable. But whenever I see someone who like to ask me about kids, I strongly recommend that people have kids. And I not in a gross way, just because I think like cool people should have babies. Like that's my position.
I'm on board with
people I like should have kids, because I think there should be cool people that make cool people. Like that's, so anyways, it has nothing to do with,
I'm into that as a teacher. It's always cool to meet cool kids that belong to cool people. So I'm pro team cool people. I will say this, the last thing I'll say about the pro-natalism movement is if they really were really about getting it out there and, aside from giving back, like Benari and I were saying, to the community, they would tap Nick Cannon as their spokesperson, but that shows that they're racist.
Yes.
Right? He never comes up in the conversation. So they're for specific.
Yeah.
They're looking for a specific baby.
Yeah.
No one has been more pro-natalism.
Nick Cannon, yeah, absolutely. All right, folks, let me know. What do you think about pro-natalism? Is it a trend that you are skeptical of? All right, that is the end of the show. What I would love is for the people of Fake the Nation to be able to follow you and all the wonderful things you do. Zilla, Vodnas, where do they do that?
Oh, you can find me at Zilla Vodnas on Instagram or at Zilla Vision on Twitch.
Oh, that's right. You've got your Twitch game. Yeah. And definitely do that, because I've seen this woman perform. She's so funny. She's so charming. You will absolutely enjoy everything that she puts out online. So look her up. Benari, Lee, Poulten, where do people find you?
Online, you can find me at Benari Lee at the Bad Place, at Instagram, at Blue Sky, whatever, all the places. Just at Benari Lee, and yeah, I'll be around.
And folks, you know where to find me. You know, I'm going to be touring in places like Fayetteville and Muncie, Indiana, and Memphis, Tennessee. And I will be posting all of those dates. You know, the tour starts on July 6th, and you know, we're literally like ironing out some details, and I will have like very specific information for you. But if you are in any of those cities, I would love to see you. There's going to be, I think we're going to be in 5 cities, and the tour is called Comedy Saves Democracy. You can probably take a wild guess why someone like me would be doing that show. And I really hope you guys can make it. Again, I'll be posting all that stuff on my website, and everything's going to be finalized very soon as there are HTML things that go into other HTML things. Otherwise, I want to thank everyone who makes the show a possibility. That's our wonderful producer, Andrew McGuire. Thanks to everyone at Headgum for making the show possible. Thanks to Gaby Alter for our theme music. If you have any questions or ideas, you can email us at fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's fakethenationpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to go to Patreon at patreon.com/Negin Farsad and support the show. And otherwise, we'll be back in your earballs next week.
That was a Headgum podcast.